Hey everyone, it is the Blonde Broker here. We're at ETHCC in Belgium. It is day 3. I am joined by none other than Ty from Hedera. How are you today?
I'm doing great.
How has your conference experience been so far?
It's been good. Definitely went to a lot more side events than the main conference. I was only at the main conference one time, but the amount of smart people in a very small location is high, which is great. Amazing conversations, and I got to go to IPFS camp. I got to go to Filecoin Brussels. It's been pretty cool.
I've heard the quality of the side events this year and actually at each conference are just getting better and better and better, and you have so many choices, so it's making it hard for all the attendees.
Yeah, I think the attendance is the hardest part because I think it said like 300 plus side events on the website. And so you have to divide your time on where you want to go. And then all of these events that have high quality content, people that are speaking, the attendance is just split because you have to like two amazing conversations are happening at the same time. And you got to go to one. Yeah, everyone's doing a really good job putting on great content. It's just hard for the attendees to figure out how to get to all of them. And then for the people putting on the events, how do you get people in the door for your great content?
And I know you're pretty popular, so you probably had to like pick and choose which one. I got to go say hi here. Speaking of which, for those that don't know your role, I want you to kind of start with maybe how you got into crypto and then talk about the role you landed now and a couple things about the company.
Sure. So I got into crypto in 2020, and there was like two paths that got me in. So one, I was researching how to create a decentralized data set of health data that was anonymized in relation to the statistical readout of terpene profiles of cannabis. And so the biggest problem is that the names of cannabis don't mean anything, but the terpene profiles and the science and the breakdown really do. And if you can correlate the open science of medical patients that are getting good and bad effects from different ailments they have, and you can pair that with the chemical makeup of the plant that they're smoking to get the benefit for their medicine, then you can have a decentralized data set that is open to anyone and researchers can use to make really potent medical solutions for people with ailments. So I was investigating a bunch of different solutions on how to do that. And then Doge was on Robinhood. So bought some Doge and saw it go up a lot. And was like, okay, this is interesting. I'm a technologist. Hooked. What's happening here? And then I kind of went down the rabbit hole.
So you had like this wholesome job, and then you were like, crypto, let's go.
I was a CTO of a e-commerce company at the time, and I was just on my free time. I was working with some other entrepreneurs trying to fix this other problem of cannabis. I live in Denver, Colorado. Obviously, cannabis is plentiful there. But then the intent of how do you provide a better quality of life for people? I think that's the main purpose of technology, and that's why when I got into crypto, obviously, again, I think most people's first hit is that dopamine of like, oh, number go up. But as a technologist, after you peel back number go up, you see the benefits of that decentralized system. And I was trying to find a solution and then didn't really understand cryptography. And then again, Doge was like, oh, okay. And then SHIB, I got into that really. I was in SHIB Army for a while. And then, so as I started building applications, I actually was going to set up on Cardano. I did 6 months of research across all of the different chains, and Cardano made the most sense to me for what I was trying to do. And then I got an email from a friend, and he said, hey, you should check out Hadera. And so...
wow, an email.
Yeah. It's
That's how that, okay.
So then I did, and I researched it for 5 hours straight, and I was like, okay, well, this seems really plentiful. So I took some of my Cardano, switched over to HBAR, and then after another couple weeks, I just was like, okay, we're setting up shop here, and then started building and created Hcraft punks and a company called Turtle Moon, and started building on Hedera.
What, your Hcraft punks, were those NFTs?
Yes, they are still a project on Hedera. It was
awesome.
One of the first major, the punks of the network. And then we built a bunch of open source tooling and created a company called Turtle Moon to release that. So we created the first mass minting open source tool that was for Mac, Windows, Linux, no code needed to be able to mint. So anyone could just download it as a desktop app and mint. And then from there, created a launch pad and just kept building.
And then your position now, so it evolved from you being an entrepreneur builder, you dropped your collection, your project, and now you're actually pretty high up in the company, right?
Yeah. From there, we, Turtleman was building a bunch of things in the ecosystem, and the biggest issue we had was getting data off of the mirror nodes or off the mainnet to do things with. So then I co-founded a company called Hcraft with my co-founder Tyler McDonald, who's still running the company. And after a year or so of that, there was a position that opened up for senior product manager of tokenization and consensus, which were the two major services I was building on for the last 3.5 years. I had tons of ideas for it. So yeah, I applied for the role, and now I've been in that role for about 9 months. It's been really, really cool.
That's amazing. And for those that actually are listening in and maybe they don't know what Hcraft is and Hedera, can we do a little run through of the products for them?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So, how about I break down the organizations of Hedera?
Yes, because that is still confusing to me.
It is still confusing. Yes. And like everybody in the Hedera ecosystem likes to put H or Hcraft or hash or Hashcraft. So there's a lot of hashes. There's the network Hedera. It's an L1. It's a DAG. It has a unique consensus algorithm called Hcraft. And that's what gives it its ability to be extremely green. It's like a very extremely low carbon output. Extremely fast, where it can do around 10,000 TPS, and that's throttled down from 100,000. We just don't hit that, so it's throttled at 10, and 3 to 5 second to true finality of execution of a transaction. So, it's great tech, and that's the network Hedera. And then I work at Swirlds Labs, which is the organization that does a lot of the open source development, and there's just tons of engineers that build out the open source protocol of Hedera. And then there is the HBAR Foundation, which is the grant wing. So there's kind of 3 orgs. And then we also have the Hcraft Association, which is another grant system. So 4 orgs, all similar names except Swirlds Labs.
You guys right now, so you are traveling to conferences. I think that's where I've met you before. Was that Consensus in Austin? Yeah. Do you guys take a large chunk of the team and y'all travel and you public speak? You actually help sponsor some of these events? What does that look like?
Yeah, so I'm not guaranteed to go to conferences. I'm not on the DevRel or DA team, developer advocacy team. But in my role and specifically running the token service or being the product manager of the token service, I did a keynote at the Phil Brussels going over real world asset tokenization. And so Hadera is on the bleeding edge of how do you tokenize carbon credits. We have Red Swan that's tokenizing real estate in the U.S. and how do you do these really complicated regulatory things and bring value and why? And so since we're on the bleeding edge and kind of thought leaders in the RWA space and the carbon credit space, it makes sense to go to conferences and share what we've learned and how we're executing things and the momentum that we have for.
And you also touched on the grants. So right now, I think a lot of we're in a builder's market, right? People are looking for those grants. You guys are probably bringing a lot of attraction from devs out there. What do those grants look like?
A nature of the organization split up is I'm not really involved in grants at all. So unfortunately, I don't have any insight into how the grant
They're just there.
Works. They are there. Reach out to the HBAR Foundation or the Hcraft Association and their websites, and then you can get good information on how to apply and what the tracks are.
At Swirlds Labs, so I know you can touch on that. What do you guys have coming up down the pipeline that you can talk about?
We do have a hackathon that's coming up July 22nd. Yeah, it goes from then to the 20th of August. $300,000 of prizes, and there are 3 tracks: RWA tokenization, DeFi, and a third one.
Is it an online hackathon or?
I believe you can register, and it's decentralized, so anyone can register and apply for it. And then, I think the registry ends the 18th of August, so you have a long time to register, and then they'll pick the winners after the 20th.
Have you ever participated in a hackathon?
Yes, a lot of them, but that was a decade ago, not in crypto. I don't think I've participated in a hackathon in crypto.
Oh, I went to the FTX hackathons, like back in Miami.
Back when FTX was a reputable name.
Yes, and I think they were like children, like that were competing, maybe middle school and high school, but it was really awesome to see how encouraging they were. And they were actually, I think, Step-In. I guess it was a protocol where you earned money from walking.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they were there.
Okay.
And they actually like blew up. So that was cool. So at this hackathon, what could someone expect to see? Do you have any idea? So I know we've got RWAs as a section.
I guess it's there should be a lot of educational information on how to engage the network. Or there will be a lot of educational information on how to gauge the network, how to build on Hedera. I think there's a large pool of developers that feel that cryptography, solidity, all of these things are just beyond accessible. And for Hedera, it's extremely easy to get started because we have JavaScript SDKs that allow Web 2 developers that understand NPM and Node and JavaScript and TypeScript to actually engage a Web3 space and quickly, in 5 minutes, create an NFT and send it to the friend. And so I think that this hackathon is really trying to focus on the usability and ease of access that Hedera brings that network of developers, and is a good initial touch point if you need help getting started with having mentors for each of the tracks. And then at the end, we have the judges for each of the tracks. But even if you're not looking to get prize pools and you're just looking to learn, I think hackathons are really great because you have attention focus from the actual networks that are saying, hey, come here, we're going to teach you, there's education. And if you ever get stuck, there's a lot of attention on you and your development. If it's just a random forum post or you're just posting on a support page, you just have to wait for the regular cycle. So it's definitely a great time to learn.
That was my next question. If you guys offered like a boot camp or someone that was maybe learning how to code or wanted to build on Hadera, like where do they go?
Right. This is kind of, again, like you can, if you're a seasoned engineer, you can apply and try to build something very cool and win the prize money. And if you're someone who's curious, you can go into a track and we have mentors for each of the tracks. And so the mentors will help you understand the technology and build. So I think it's a great opportunity to learn, even if you don't think you'll be able to earn a prize, to just enter and see what it's about.
I should enter.
Yeah.
I don't know what I would present, but I should definitely
just ask ChatGPT. Like, what should I make?
So you have the hackathon. Will we see you at Bitcoin Nashville? Or are you going to Token 2049?
I don't think we're going to Bitcoin Nashville. Again, that's not my team, so I'm unsure if we're going to Token 49. I think we are going to DevCon in Thailand.
Nice. Okay, that makes sense.
Singapore?
Thailand, yeah. Bangkok,
right. So I would look up at the Hedera.com events schedule. I think you can find information there.
We were excited at Consensus. You guys had such a big booth, and the merch was very unique. You guys passed out some H-bar Oreos.
Yeah.
Yep. And those went like viral. Everyone was talking about them.
Yes, people like the Oreos.
So we switch it up. And speaking of marketing, you guys also are working with Karate Combat.
Yes.
And I want to talk about that because Karate Combat is built on Hedera, and I'm going to let you take over.
Yeah. I hear you might be fighting in Karate Combat.
Yes, I just signed my contract
Nice.
to fight in Karate Combat at Token 2049 in Singapore. So I've been training for that.
Very cool. I think Karate Combat is doing what we've been talking about for a long time in crypto, where we can build all the technology in the planet, but if no one uses it, it doesn't matter. And so I think Karate Combat has a really easy onboarding mechanism for people who aren't necessarily even technical to have a touch point on why this is a cool, innovative, new way to interact with a sport. So the Karate Combat app and the token are Hedera. So that is a Karate Combat app is a Hedera account. And Up Only Gaming is a really cool, interesting way on how people that are participating in the token can bet and always win, right? So if you lose, you keep your token. If you win more token. And the fighters get a portion. If they win the fight, they get a bigger bonus from the pool of people that bet on them.
Yes, these pools are massive too, by the way.
It's very cool. And then they actually also get to vote in DAO votes. So when we were at Consensus, I think that was the first karate where the 5-second rule was removed from a DAO vote. And so the game changes based on how people who have more of the token vote. And I think it's really impactful to see that you can change the sport through participation. And it's fast. It has a really quick user experience. And those are the benefits that we try to explain in Hedera. Is like, I always kind of theorize that Hedera can be the user experience layer of Web3. And this is a great example of how if you build a very big consumer-focused application, users don't really know they're interacting with crypto, and you get all the benefits of that cryptography and like DAO votes and everything.
For those at home, if you download the Karate Combat, you'll be able to see exactly what we're talking about. It's super easy to use. You make an account really quickly, and then you're able to see all of the past fights. You're able to learn more about Up Only Gaming. You can, I believe, as soon as you download and create a wallet, you do get some HBAR.
For transaction fees.
Yeah, for transaction fees. So not only that, then you can purchase karate tokens, and then you can go and vote on your favorite fighters. You'll see like the odds whenever voting opens up, who you want to bet on. And it's super cool. So hopefully you bet on me. It's exciting. So now we're taking sports betting, and I want to say like combat sports has just increasingly grown over the last year because you have Logan Paul and Kai Cenat's fighting group. Kick and Stake are doing a ton of sports gambling and betting. So you have all these influencers that are now coming over to Karate Combat, and it's gone from 8 million views per fight to now like 28 million.
Yeah,
something crazy. And this is good for you guys, right? Because the HBAR logo is massive right in the middle of the pit.
Yeah. And I would argue it's they do things that are just really cool. Like there's no, like when we were there, so I was at Consensus, I was at the fight. I got to watch Mei Chan fight, who is the CEO of the biggest wallet on Hedera. Hashpack.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it was phenomenal.
I lost my voice, cheering her on.
Well, she was good. Like
she was amazing.
She's strong.
Yeah. She was already a trained fighter, and then she got into the karate combat.
Because she came in as an influencer, and I was like, oh, she's not an influencer, she's a fighter.
Right.
I was like a legit fighter. But now they're actually the fights are sanctioned, so they're licensed fights. So not so much we're still influencers, but now all of the training has become a lot more professional and serious, and getting the physicals and doing everything that a professional fighter would. So the fight goes on your card forever. Win or lose, it's always there.
All that is awesome. And when you're there and you look at the TV screen, there's like, you're on a different planet.
Yes.
Like the 3D effects that they bring to the event, I think go above and beyond what you really see in other fighting arenas, because it's much more kind of like the old style boxing. We're going to watch the fight. They're inside the MMA cage or something, and we're watching them.
But now we have an element of Tron.
Right. And there was like a flying DeLorean through the sky a couple times. So I think at least it's like a revamp of the older sport games, and it has a lot more touch points that newer generations can get excited about, and some cool new stuff they just really haven't seen before.
We have that coming up. That's super exciting. I just want to know, like, why HBAR? Like, if someone is like, there's this really cool crypto, I'm looking at the volume, what about HBAR is like, I want to be an investor, I want to be a shareholder and have a ton of this token?
Right. So I'm going to answer that from a technologist standpoint, because I'm not a trader. And if you follow my trades, you got to get wrecked like me. So from a technology standpoint, again, the way that cryptography and decentralized ecosystems can help people is through the ability of onboarding real life applications that can have people who are non-technical engage the space. And the first thing that matters is user experience. If you have a mobile application and it loads 2 seconds longer than it used to, you lose 30 to 40% of your users. And so waiting 5 minutes for a transaction to clear, or the transaction failing, is really difficult to explain to a user who's ready and willing to engage a Web 2 app. And that's their experience. And so unfortunately, even though there's a lot more technology and computing and different things happening, that experience expectation is high. And so in order to onboard the masses, we need to build applications and ways of onboarding them, meeting them where they are. And they are in a Web 2 world. And so specifically, again, Hadera, with its 3 to 5 second true finality, with its 10K TPS, it has that user experience layer where you can still have a decentralized ecosystem while still engaging a user class that just has no idea behind the scenes. And that, I believe, is fundamental for the future of this vertical.
What I did want to ask you, because this is a huge buzzword over the last 6 months in the crypto space, we talk about RWAs, and I think a lot of people surface level understand what an RWA is, but you're actively building them. I kind of want you to do a breakdown of what is this real world asset? What does it mean? What's the process of creating one? What classifies as an RWA?
Really good question. The simplest thing is an RWA is just a token that connects to a real world asset. It is used as in place of the real world asset for trading. And it's nothing new to humans. In 3000 BC in Mesopotamia, we had clay tokens that were sealed by a notary, and that would dictate livestock and oil, and that was a token of a real world asset. And so the only difference that's happening now is we're moving those from bank ledgers that are internal and like the token, a database line, and we're putting them into a decentralized system. So again, it's nothing really new. It's just moving it from an older system to a newer system. The biggest issues aren't tokenizing, because we can do, NFTs have been around for a long time. You know,
Right.
Ethereum, like what, 2015? Yeah. So tokenizing is easy. The problem, or the hardest part of real world tokenization, is making sure that that asset is legally in that token. And if it was traded, then the ownership trades with it. Because if you're in Alabama and you bought the 28th floor of a high rise in China, and then the lease owner in China sells the entire building, what's your legal recourse?
Exactly.
So it's not, how do I tokenize the 28th floor and sell it to you? It is, how do I make sure that that's legally, regulatory, working correctly for you as an investor protection, making sure I'm not doing doing all my anti-money laundering laws and my KYC. Some asset classes, you have to have $150,000 before you can even access it. So not just doing KYC, but doing sophisticated investor class. So a lot of the focus isn't on how do I tokenize this, and it is on how do I work with governments and regulatory agencies around the world to understand where the guardrails are and make sure that that data is on the token, so that when it is being exchanged in open markets, it's legally allowed to, and that the person who issues it have the right requirements, like I can freeze it if it gets into an illegal state, I can claw it back if I need to give it back because the lease has been sold and give you money or something. So that's where most of the work is. And you can look at Hedera is doing a lot on trying to figure out that through the environmental credits and the carbon credits. And then you can look at Chainlink with their CCIP, where they're trying to see how do you get transactions across different networks to talk to each other. So if you have a token on different networks, you can move them to different liquidity and different jurisdictions.
So when they say that like everything can be classified as an RWA, is that true?
Yeah, if you have a shoe and you tokenize that shoe and then you sell it and you send the shoe to someone and they own it somehow, that's a real world asset that's been tokenized. So yeah, it is going to be a $16 trillion market by 2030, according to CoinGecko in their 2024 RWA report. So there's a lot of liquidity and assets that are going to be brought on chain. And there's a lot of benefit for these institutions and the people that own the assets to bring them on, from fractionalized ownership to more access to liquidity. So it's going to happen, and it's our jobs as technologists to make sure that that's an easy thing for them to do, and that as consumers, when you purchase a real world asset, you have legal recourse and it is legal for you to own it. That's the tricky part.
This question I want to ask you, and this is kind of one of my favorite questions to ask during an interview. What is the legacy, Ty, that you want to leave behind in crypto?
I got into the industry and I continue to strive to bring a better quality of life to people. Financial freedom and sovereignty and privacy and data sovereignty are the biggest issues on the planet. Capitalism has become untethered, and through that, a lot of people are adversely, negatively affected, most people. And so if we can empower people to have their ownership of their assets, including their data, which is just continually stolen and then used to target them, and now with AI models and with just the exponential rate of new digital creation and targeting that's more advanced than one human being can stop, we must wield this technology in a way to empower people to survive in the new digital decentralized age that's coming. And that's, if I can have any part in helping people survive the future of what could be a dystopian, horrible state, I think this is how we avoid that future. And so if my legacy can be anywhere in helping us survive the digital age, I think that's what I can do to try to help.
I was very passionate. We had a couple of people, we were actually just at a little side event, and they were talking about data privacy and AI, and most of them had the same concerns.
It's really bad already. We're all
scary.
In 2015, I was a mobile game developer. My entire job was not building a mobile game. My job was, how do I get enough data in this pipeline to understand to send you a push message 1 second before you would put the game down so I have your attention, and that's giving you free digital goods, and then you use those and then you spend money. And so it was not about making a fun game. It was about manipulating people's psyche and how they discern things on their phone. And that's 2015. The amount of technology and compute is insane, especially with AI models. And so you continually have people that aren't tech savvy, and when they interact with any digital touch point, they don't understand that that is not an accident. It's not random. It's an extremely targeted thing. And things like Facebook, things like Instagram, they're taking where you go at all times. They're listening to your microphone. They're watching you on your videos because you give them those permissions. And they take that data and now they're putting it through giant compute. And it's just, we're already at a state of where giant corporations have way too much flexibility of changing human psyche. And we've seen this play out on the political spectrum, and we've seen it be used in a malicious way to the ends, the means of what giant companies wanted to do at the time. So again, if we can empower people to have data sovereignty, that is the most important thing through this technology that can hopefully right the balance that is very out of scale right now.
So where can we find you? Where can, if someone is wanting to actually get to know HBAR, Hedera, Swirlds, how do they get a hold of you?
So I'm mainly on Twitter.
Okay.
If you want to talk to official me, it's SL_patches. Patches is my internet handle. I loved it. I was undoxed for 3.5 years. It was great. But now as an official capacity, I'm doxed. So TMCC_patches is my DGen account, and then SL_patches is my non-DGen account.
Can I call you Patches?
Oh yeah, a lot of people do.
I like that.
Yeah.
You're now Patches. Well, thank you so much today. That was a great interview.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
Hey, what's up?
But it's not something Genzio is afraid of.
If you want to survive, you got to build a hive.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Get back at the Genzio Media House.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining us today.